all picked the Buffalo Bills, and I guess, Chris, so much for your theory with that Buffalo no-huddle offense being able to wear down the Giants in the fourth quarter.
Oh, now it's my theory. Last week you agreed with me, and now it's my theory. But I would have never had that theory if I would have known the Giants' defense was only going to be on the field for 19 minutes in that game.
Talk about the New York Giants. I have to give them a great deal of credit because they were able to do something physically against the Bills I didn't think they'd accomplish. Number one, Giants defensive backs really popped the receivers for Buffalo, and when the Giants needed to run the ball, they shoved it right down the throats of the Buffalo Bills.
Well, it just goes to show that the NFC is still the more physically dominant conference, but I think you hit on the key to that football game. Even though everybody talks about the front seven of the New York Giants, I really thought that it was the physical play of those defensive backs from the New York Giants that made the difference in the football game.
I thought the Buffalo Bills play selection was absolutely putrid. The Giants were giving Thurman Thomas the run, so what does Kelly and company do? They throw the football. Instead of putting the game away in the first half, what they end up doing is they put the Giants in the driver's seat and then run right over the Bills.
You know, gentlemen, in a couple of years when people think about this game, the one thing they'll remember is Scott Norwood missing the field goal at the end of the ball game. But the Bills did have their chances. We're going to talk about those missed opportunities with our guest on the show this week, the men who played in Super Bowl 25. Buffalo Bills have made a habit of breaking games wide open early, but the Giants were ready. Using a game plan of 6 defensive backs, the unstoppable offense met the unmovable defense. The game was on.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the biggest show in sports.
Bienvenidos al Super Bowl número 25 entre los Gigantes de Nueva York, campeones de la Conferencia Nacional, y los Buffalo Bills, campeones de la Conferencia Americana.
It's the Giants against the Bills, and it should be one of the best ever.
The Giants-Bills matchup may have been the silver celebration of the Super Bowl, but the events in the Persian Gulf forced the NFL's biggest show out of the spotlight and under a cloud of protection. With the premium on security at an all-time high, Tampa Stadium looked more like the site of a presidential summit than a football game. But no one could argue that the measures taken represented the best defense seen in Tampa in a long time. And it was under such sobering conditions that the favored Buffalo Bills set out to end the AFC Super Bowl jinx. The more mellow Giants may have seemed like golden oldies next to the top 40 bravado of the Bills.
Showtime! It's showtime! It's showtime!
But as the kickoff approached, the NFC champions' focus sharpened on the task that lay ahead, while the Bills' preparation seemed to consist of both tough talk and respectful awe of the enormity of the spectacle in which they found themselves.
Showtime, hey, baby. What you talking about?
Showtime!
Talk to me. Talk to me.
Showtime!
Talk to me.
Oh, baby, baby, baby.
While the distractions of what has become sports' most lavish pageant were new to the Bills, it was the second time around for the Giants, who knew exactly where their gaze should be fixed.
Come on, baby. Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Please say, let's get it on, baby.
Ain't no stopping us, man. Not today, baby. Ain't no stopping us, man. Ain't no stopping us, man.
Okay, remember you guys, when it's too tough for them, it's going to be just right. Where else would you rather be than right here?
Kickoff arrived with both sides oozing confidence, and the time for talk came to an end.
Megan's on the right side, takes the handoff, and is tripped. He gets up on his feet, continues to move. 40, 45-yard line.
I don't know what happened. It looked like Talley was in there like a flash. Migott went down. I don't know if he got hit or just slipped, but he picked himself up and got some pretty good yardage after that.
Megott's remarkable awareness after being tripped up by teammate Otis Anderson kept alive the drive that would produce the game's first points.
Lofton looking right, looking left, throws left. He's got a receiver. It is complete for a first down. Turns up to the 50-yard line.
Actually, Howard Cross tipped that pass before it got to Baker.
Ball spotted. Looked like he had trouble with it. Puts it up. It is good.
The Giants' Super Bowl defense featured just 2 down linemen, but in the Bills' second possession, even this wrinkle did not deter Jim Kelly.
Dropping back to pass, they blitz off the side. Here's a long throw downfield, and it is deflected and caught by Lofton, and he's down the sideline and out of bounds at the 8-yard line. First down for the Bills.
Boy, and how many times have we seen James Lofton come up with that kind of a catch over his shoulder? That time it was deflected by the defensive back, Perry Williams. Great concentration by Lofton. The ball comes down in his hands, and they are in scoring territory.
By sacrificing men up front, the Giants were able to use 6 defensive backs against the Bills to clamp down quickly on all of Kelly's receiving threats, forcing Buffalo to settle for the tying field goal after being first and goal on the 8.
The put down, and the kick sails up, and it is good, and we are tied at 3 in the Super Bowl.
The Giants did their job in that first quarter, holding the Bills to 3 points. The only real damage was the 61-yard reception by James Lofton on the deflection. Lofton would have had a touchdown except for the great effort by defensive back Everson Walls. Everson joins Nick on NFL Crosstalk.
Everson, congratulations, Super Bowl champs. Let's talk a little bit about the game, the first quarter. The Bills got off to a real slow start, but everybody knows that they have an explosive offense. And all of a sudden, bango, they got a 61-yard completion to James Lofton. Did anything go through your mind like, oh no, here they go again?
Well, anytime you're going against a no-huddle offense, you really don't have time to think about anything good or bad. We had to make a quick substitution right after that play and really had to think about what was ahead, and that's stopping them from getting into the end zone.
Well, let's go to a guy who was on the receiving end of that play, James Lofton up in Buffalo. James, could you take us through that play? How wide open were you? And were you disappointed that Jim Kelly underthrew you?
Well, I wasn't wide open enough. Perry Williams made a great play to get one hand on the ball and knock it up in the air. And, you know, it finally came down. It seemed like it took forever. And I got control of myself and started upfield, and here comes the oldest guy in the world to knock me out of bounds. I couldn't believe it.
Of course, you're talking about Everson Walls. James, I want to go to the second quarter, and I thought what I consider really the key play in the ball game. It was 2nd and 2. You're on the Giants' 44-yard line. The score was 12-3 in your favor. There was less than 5 minutes left in the first half, and you guys now decide to go for a bomb instead of running the football and getting the first down, eat up some clock, and maybe kick a field goal and go in leading 15-3. Were you as surprised at that call as I was?
No, I wasn't really surprised at all, because all season long we have not postured ourselves to be conservative by any stretch of the imagination. We went deep. It was there. The ball was just a little underthrown, and then once again Mr. Old-Timer comes over and tries to get an interception. We're getting up off the ground. He's going, I could have had an interception in the Super Bowl. I'm going, I could have had a touchdown if you'd have stayed out the way.
I didn't think you heard me, James.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because it was, I saw the footage. We just saw the footage, and there you guys were whispering in each other's ear. I don't know if you guys were making plans for after the season or what, but is that what you guys were talking about?
Oh, I was very disappointed. I remember coming down and I said, man, I could have had an interception in the Super Bowl. And like I said, with the no-huddle offense, you just don't really have a chance to do much but just concentrate on the next play. So we just jogged back to the line of scrimmage.
Okay, the score is 3-3 at the end of the first quarter. How did you guys feel? Everson, how did you feel going into the second quarter?
We felt real good. We were matching up very well with Andre Reed coming across the middle, trying to control James deep and making sure that Thomas wasn't hitting any big cracks within the line of scrimmage.
James, how did you feel? Your explosive offense held to 3 points in that first quarter. Were you disappointed?
Well, we were. What we wanted to do was really convert on every opportunity that we had, because we felt like if we didn't score, it was going to be a long afternoon. And what happened during the course of the football game is we were getting close, and there were some plays that we should have made, but that's the type of football game it was. When we played them in December during the regular season, it was the same type of game. They held us in check, and this time their offense really produced well.
All right, guys, if you can stay with us, we're going to get back to you a little bit later in the show. But back to you now, Len and Chris.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Chris, talk about two great ball players. Here's a couple of guys that their teams didn't want them. They came to Buffalo and to the Giants, and now they're enjoying great success.
Yeah, and I can tell you, as a player who was once put on that Plan B list, it's a little bit humiliating, no matter what Bill Parcells says. So I guarantee you those two guys are enjoying throwing their success back in the face of their former employers.
And they will be back next year. While the Giants controlled the ball for over 10 minutes of the first quarter, the Bills began to get their offense in gear. Buffalo had moved into Giants territory when the second quarter began.
As the second quarter began, Buffalo found itself in an unfamiliar position, tied with an opponent. But if the terrain was unfamiliar, the path to success was marked by two Bills who can blaze, Andre Reed and Thurman Thomas. While the Bills' greatest offensive strength is generally considered speed, power is also known to Buffalo. And whether it was Thomas's bruising running style or simply the Giants having to chase him down the field, the Giants' defense looked anything but intimidating. And if Giants fans were mad enough to spit, who could have blamed them?
Kelly waiting. John Smith drives in for the touchdown. Off the right side of the line, the Bills have taken the lead.
And a very nice, tough lead.
Ironically, the Bills' 80-yard stampede to the end zone was more characteristic of Giants football than Buffalo's freewheeling attack. But the Bills' defense wasn't about to change their methods.
Just don't give nothing up. First down's the key. You win on first down, huh? Then you kick ass on third down.
The Buffalo defense seemed to take the advice to heart and responded with an all-out assault on Giant quarterback Jeff Hostetler.
Come on, let's get on this sucker. Let's get on this sucker.
There are going to be some sore football players at the end of this game. This has been tough football.
But while physical pain subsides in time, self-inflicted wounds can be harder to heal. And with the quarter not yet half over, the Giants shot themselves in the foot.
And Hostetler may put it up here. On second down, he's going to throw, and they're after him. He falls down in the end zone. A safety! The middle was safety! It was Bruce Smith on top of him!
As aggressive as the Bills' pass rush was, it wasn't entirely responsible for the fifth safety in Super Bowl history. Hostetler actually tripped over teammate O.J. Anderson's right leg, making him an easy target for Bruce Smith. But perhaps more importantly, Hostetler cradled the football, preventing a fumble and a potential Buffalo touchdown. Still, the Bills led 12-3 as the quarter wound down.
Good job out there. Great series. Great series, baby. That's the way to go. Great series out there. That's the way to pressure. I told you go ahead, pressure out there.
If the Giants felt any of that pressure, however, it hardly showed. And if their sideline communication was less engaging than their opponents, it didn't matter.
There's nobody out to the left yet.
The Giants did all their talking on the field. On his way to his first 100-yard rushing game of the year, O.J. Anderson led the Giants in more ways than one. For example, Dave Maggott's 17-yard run off left tackle was made possible by Anderson's lead block on Bills linebacker Darryl Talley, giving Maggott an unobstructed path outside. Even more incredible than the ageless Anderson was the recovery of Hostetler, whose passes ultimately proved the difference on the Giants' drive.
Back to throw. They blitz a safety again. He throws to the end zone. A So they beat the Bills blitz again. And now the Giants can come within 2 points of the lead with 25 seconds to play.
Hostetler's 14-yard scoring strike to Stephen Baker was the game's only touchdown pass, but more critically, it erased a quarter's worth of Bills domination while cutting the Giants' halftime deficit to a mere 2 points.
The Bills may have had a 12-10 lead at the half, but the momentum had swung. New York's drive at the end of the first half certainly gave hope to Bill Parcells' crew. 2 players on the field during that scoring drive were Giants quarterback Jeff Hostetler and Bills free safety Mark Kelso. They're with Chris. Let's go to them now.
First of all, guys, thanks for being with us. And Mark, I'll start with you. Tell us about this safety that Bruce Smith got. Did you think the Bills might be able to blow the game open at that point?
Well, it was a big momentum builder for us, and you know, just like I'm sure Jeff would tell you, that drive at the end of the first half kind of changed things around. But at that point, we were bending a little bit on defense, but we hadn't broken, and then we came up with a big play and got the ball right back, and then our offense was able to drive, and so I mean, obviously we didn't feel the game was over at that point, but there were a lot of emotional shifts in the game, and that one went our way, and we felt like if we could capitalize on that and kind of ride that crest, that we could, you know, hopefully, you know, mount an insurmountable lead, but it wasn't meant to be.
Jeff, let me ask you now, and first of all, I should say congratulations. You played a great game, but I thought the biggest play of the ball game was that safety when you somehow held on to the football. After watching the replay, can you believe you didn't fumble on that play?
Well, I haven't seen the replay yet, but it came as a complete surprise. I was stumbling a little bit, and I wasn't sure why, and just gained my balance, and all of a sudden felt this big hand right above the ball on my wrist, and it was all I could do to just try to tuck the ball and keep it.
Well, let's move on to the drive right before the half. How important was it for you personally and your confidence to put together that drive and cap it off with a touchdown to Stephen Baker?
Well, I think individually it was important just to get a score, get the ball in the end zone. And offensively, our whole team, we needed to move the ball well, stop making mistakes, and just do the things that we had been doing all year long. And to do that right before a half, it was a real key point in our game plan, and it allowed us to maintain our game plan and do the things that we've done all year long.
Mark, how much of a downer was that drive for your defense after playing so well up to that point in the first half?
Well, I don't think that was the drive that was pivotal. I guess you could say it might have been, because had they not had that drive, they may have not come back at the beginning of the second half and had a long drive. But the drive that really hurt us was that long possession drive. And, you know, you hate to make the history books for the opposing team, you know, the longest drive in Super Bowl history. But, you know, they put together a great game plan, and that's the one that really hurt us, because it kept our offense off the field. You know, the guys were on the sidelines. I think somebody said in real time it was almost an hour, and then it took them a little bit of time to get back on track.
All right, well, guys, we appreciate you being with us, and if you will, stay put for just a minute, because Nick's going to talk to you about that pivotal second half drive in just a couple of minutes. Nick, Len?
Chris, thank you very much. Nick, with that drive before the half, the Giants had their game plan ready for the second half. If you were Buffalo, what adjustments would you make?
Lenny, they had to think about putting more pressure on the Giant defense. You do that by, number one, going to the no-huddle offense, but keeping Jim Kelly under the center, Thurman Thomas as the running back, therefore keeping the Giants off stride, not knowing whether they're going to run or they were going to pass. They didn't do it, therefore they failed.
Yeah, particularly on third down, because I think they were 1 of 8. Entering the third quarter, the Giants were down 12-10 and got the ball first and didn't plan on relinquishing it for a long, and I do mean a very long, time.
From a distance, it appeared that the Bills were in control, but a closer look revealed that the balance of power had shifted to the Giants. The game had settled into a slow, methodical pace, as if willed by the Giants. The most dramatic imposition of that will was the opening drive of the third quarter. It would be the most time-consuming drive in Super Bowl history.
O.J.'s the back on the short yardage. O.J. turns. He's got it. 50, 45, 40, 35, 30-yard line.
Otis Anderson's 24-yard run on 3rd and short was a tidy summation of Giants football.
Make it happen! Make it happen!
Powerful, brutish, straight ahead, with all the frills of a crisp right lead to the jaw.
What a blow he delivered at about the 40-yard line. On the back coming up to tackle him was a Kelso.
He looked like Muhammad Ali winding up, doing a little butterfly dance, and popped in with that stiff arm.
It was just terrific. He knows how to run.
The Giants' pointed approach left the Bills staggering and frustrated. In this colossal struggle of wills, Buffalo was losing its frenetic edge.
Bills have not had the ball in this quarter, and the clock is running, and that's just the way the Giants want it. And now they are faced with 3rd and about 13. They have the ball at the 32-yard line of the Bills. Here's a huge play.
Come on, baby, come on. Come on, don't let us down, baby. Don't let us down. Come on, Jeff.
12-10 the score. Buffalo, 3rd quarter. Hostetler has the ball and the snap throws. Complete. He's got Ingram for maybe a first down. He'll try to the 20. Yes, he's got it. What effort. What effort.
Brought that ball to 25 and got free of 3 separate tackles. I didn't think there was any chance he'd be able to do it. A nice spin move, a cutback, great athletic play.
The drive's most important play was made by the most unlikeliest of players. What's more, Mark Ingram's dazzling dance routine through the Buffalo defense was an unfamiliar and unexpected vision. A Giants wide receiver single-handedly shaking off defenders. That was supposed to be the sole province of the Bills' helter-skelter offense, with their outstanding receivers. The drive continued. It would not end until almost 10 minutes had been ticked off the 3rd quarter clock.
Giants have had the ball for going on 8 minutes.
They've averaged 16 yards on 3 third-down plays this drive.
Here we go. Big 3rd down play here. 3rd and 4.
13th play of this drive. This has been a long clock-eating drive. Fakes the handoff, rolls left, throws, complete inside the 10, inside the 5, out of bounds at the 3. It's Howard Cross.
9-minute plus drive.
This is what they want to do. Eat that clock, score a touchdown, keep that no huddle off the field.
This drive is taking almost 10 minutes. Look at this. I thought maybe I'd lost an offensive series for Buffalo someplace in here. No. Giants on the 1.5-yard line. O.J. touchdown!
Giants have taken the lead. Well, they drove 87 yards in the 2nd quarter, and now they drive 75 to go ahead 16-12 with the extra point coming up.
What this offense is designed to do, power possession football. They went down the field with some big plays, put it in for the touchdown.
9 minutes and 29 seconds after the ball was kicked off, the Giants kept that football.
Bill Parcells' strategy of shortening the game was working very well. The Bills had the ball for only 3 minutes and 8 seconds in the 3rd quarter. Let's go back to Nick with Jeff Hostetler and Mark Kelso.
Jeff, let's talk a little bit about that power drive of 9.5 minutes in the 3rd quarter. I'm sure you know, but it's the most time-consuming drive in Super Bowl history. What do you think was the key to that drive?
I think just keeping the 3rd down short and converting on those. We've been doing it all year long. I don't think our offense has gotten the credit that it deserved. We've held the ball during the playoffs for about 39 minutes per game, and we did that by trying to run the ball in there and keeping 2nd and 3rd down short and converting those.
Your offensive line sure did a good job. Mark, it was 3rd and 13 during that drive, and Jeff hits Ingram. Now, we saw an isolation of you having a shot at Ingram, and you're the surest tackler in the Bills secondary, yet you ended up missing it. As we look back at that now, do you think that was the biggest play of the game for the Giants?
I don't know if it was the biggest. Thanks for pointing that out. But they No, it was a very pivotal play, no question about it, because had they not made it, they would have had to settle for a field goal, and they were able to go in and get a score. And, you know, that was a key play. We had a few guys miss them in that situation, and, you know, it was a great effort by him, and that kept the drive alive. Obviously, we had, I think, 2 or 3 chances on third down to get them off the field, and we weren't able to be successful doing that.
You know, Mark, as you look at that drive, and people will talk about it replacing the Elway drive, this is now the new drive. Did that drive drain the life out of your defense?
Yeah, I think it did at that particular point. I mean, when we were able to come back and score, you know, we felt like we were right back in it. But at that point, they had us on the field for a long time, and we knew that we couldn't allow that situation to continue if we were going to win the game.
Jeff, from the other side of the football, did you notice any difference in the Bills' defense after your great drive?
Well, I think the next time they came out, we could tell there was a difference. Seemed like we were wearing them down. We've got a big offensive line, powerful backs that stick it up in there, and it was tough on them, tough on their defensive line, and anytime you keep a defense out there that long, it's going to wear on them, and that's basically how we play football.
Jeff,
just try to wear them down.
Jeff, what's your life been like? You know, you're really coming from virtual obscurity kind of to world fame. You know, there are only 14 men who have ever quarterbacked the Super Bowl champion. How does it feel?
Feels great. It feels great to prove, especially you guys, wrong, and to come out with a victory against a great team.
Jeff and Mark, thank you both for being on the show. Both have an awful lot to be proud of, and have a great off season.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Chris, I still can't get over Jeff Hostetler and how great he has performed ever since Phil Simms got hurt.
Yeah, there's no question about it. He was absolutely outstanding, especially in those playoffs. But a lot of people in New York think there's a quarterback controversy with the Giants now. I disagree. I still think it's Phil Simms' job to lose.
Well, it might be Phil Simms' job, but everybody now knows that Hostetler is a winner. The Giants had a quarter left to protect their tenuous 5-point lead. Although their game of keep-away had rested their defense, the Giants still needed to find a way to stop the best player on the field, Thurman Thomas.
Once again, welcome back to Tampa. We've got 15 minutes of regulation football in front of us. Giants leading by a score of 17-12. Kelly's in a shotgun here. First down. Ball's at the Giants 31.
Here's Kelly shotgunning, a running play. Thurman Thomas breaks it at the 25, still on his feet at the 20, gets down to the 15, the 10, the 5, and scores! Thurman Thomas has broken a 31-yard touchdown run, and the Bills have taken the lead with that electrifying play. He broke the tackle of Byron Guyton and ran in for the score, and the Bills are back on top.
Thurman Thomas's 31-yard run on the first play of the final quarter helped give Buffalo a 2-point lead. But led by Jeff Hostetler, the Giants, who would control the ball over 40 minutes, embarked on their second 14-play drive of the half. A touchdown would have given the Giants a 5-point lead, and punching the ball over from in tight is usually a given for Bill Parcells because of Otis Anderson. But Jeff Wright turned a 1st and goal at the 3 into a 2nd and goal at the 7, and Buffalo forced New York to try for 3.
This important to what? Drop. It's good.
And the Giants now take the lead 20-19 to get the ever dangerous Kelly.
Now we have 2:16 to play, and this will be it. One more shot
and you
for
wouldn't
Jim
want
Kelly and the Bills.
You wouldn't want it any other way.
Nope.
You wouldn't want it any other way.
90 yards away from a touchdown. What a finish. What a finish to this Super Bowl.
With New York's defense all falling for Kelly's inside handoff, Thomas was able to cut back outside and pick up 22 yards. Buffalo's hurry-up offense was in high gear, but its task was a most difficult one, to slow down time. Kelly's scramble moved Buffalo into New York territory, and with under a minute to go, it was time for a hero to emerge. Keith McKellar's shoestring catch brought the Bills to the 40, and then Thomas, whose cleats covered 135 yards rushing, high-stepped Buffalo within the range of Scott Norwood's foot.
That's it. That sets the stage for Norwood.
Unbelievable.
A lot of pressure. You want to talk about a pressure situation.
That is a long way to kick a football.
The quiet man of this football team, Scott Norwood. He can fire the shot heard round the world now.
What a fine game. What an absolutely fine game.
Here we go with 8 seconds to play.
Get ready.
High drama here in the Super Bowl.
Spot in the air. It's got the distance. It is.
It seems kind of funny that after 5 months and 235 games, a couple of inches is the determining factor for who celebrates in the NFL and who wonders what could have been. But at a time when football fans were wondering about so many things other than football, it was exhilarating that the closest Super Bowl ever, a Super Bowl that saw the Giants outgain the Bills by just 15 yards, a Super Bowl with no turnovers, would be the most thrilling Super Bowl in history.
After 4 lead changes, Super Bowl 25 provided the narrowest margin of victory. Scott Norwood's 47-yard field goal attempt straight off course, taking with it the hearts of Buffalo and their fans. Let's go back to Chris with James Lofton and Everson Walls.
James, before we talk about how the game ended, let's go back to what I thought was the key to the ball game, the Giants secondary. You caught that 61-yard bomb early in the first quarter, but then you didn't catch another pass the rest of the day. What happened?
Well, I've been asked that question over dinner, at the post office, at the barbershop. And to tell you the truth, I really don't know what happened. There were some times when I thought I was open, but I just wasn't throwing the ball. We had people open, and unfortunately, a couple of times they just didn't make the plays that we needed during the course of the ball game.
Everson, let's get your side of the story. The Buffalo Bills wide receivers had a lot of success all season long, and you guys managed to shut them down. There was some talk about the intimidation factor. Do you think that played into this ball game?
Yes, I really do. You know, we've got linebackers that match up very well in the matchup type of zones that we play. Carl Banks was really looking forward to catching Andre Reed coming across the middle. Mark Collins caught him a couple of times, Myron Guyton. And mostly what my job was to make sure that the players were in the correct positions at all times. Our defensive coordinator, Bill Belichick, left it up to me to call the plays in the no-hold situation. That was practically the whole ball game.
Well, let's move to the end of the ball game now. That last drive that set up the Scott Norwood attempt to win the ball game at the end. Did you guys think that your defense had blown the game by allowing them to move down the field like that at the end of the ball game?
Well, we really thought we would be in trouble if they reached the 35-yard line. And as I was calling the plays and giving out the signals, I just kept looking at the clock, and it just wasn't running fast enough. But thank God for us, Norwood just really couldn't come through for him this time.
James, let me take you back to that last kick. You've been a veteran, and you've been around for a long time now. What were some of the emotions that you were feeling as Scott Norwood lined up for that last-second field goal?
Well, the one thing I wanted for Scott most of all, I wanted him to get a good swing on the ball. he had kicked off well all during the game and had made the conversions for us, so I just wanted him to get a good attempt. And he got some good leg into the ball, but he just didn't bring it back around to the left enough.
Did you get a chance to talk with Scott after the game?
Well, I saw him on the plane, and we had a rally after we got back to Buffalo, and he talked to the crowd of about 30,000 people, and it's a very tough situation, but, you know, the funny thing about it, it'll make our team better in the long run.
All right, well, to both of you guys, I say congratulations. You're both contemporaries of mine and had tremendous years, and best of luck to you in the future.
Thank you, Chris.
Back to you, Nick and Len.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Nick, James Lofton was very upbeat even though they lost the football game, and he said he's ready for next year. And I can understand why he enjoys playing in Buffalo, because you and I know the Buffalo fan. He is with you win or lose. And I think that was evident Monday after the game when they greeted the team when they returned to Buffalo. We have some footage of that, and take a look at the footage of this and see that they are there out to greet them, and everybody was concerned. Scott Norwood had this to say.
I know I'm going to be back. You can count on it. And I'm dedicating next season to the fans of Buffalo.
Well, I'll tell you what, Lenny, you know, I've seen a lot of rallies where people have turned out for winning teams, but to have 30,000 people turn out on an icy, snowy day, I think it's a great credit to that Buffalo organization, and they ought to be proud of their fans.
You better believe it. We've seen that for 30 years, haven't we? Yes. The Super Bowl has become big business for the city and state that hosts the game and the week's worth of partying. But next year, Super Bowl 26 is in frigid Minnesota, where the outside temperature saw a high of 7 degrees last Sunday. In this week's cover story, Brian Burwell looks ahead at what to expect.
Usually, one of the great things about working at the Super Bowl is the location. Whether it's in the West Coast or the Deep South, you get the sun, you get the beaches, you get the pool. But next year, we go north, to Minnesota. I wonder what they do up there this time of the year. Cold. And how do you pass the time in the Twin Cities?
I really like the exhilarating feeling of ice skating.
Help me. So, what's your favorite thing to do in the Twin Cities this time of the year?
Brian, my favorite thing to do is visiting Mary Richards' house. You know, Mary Tyler Moore.
Yo, Brian, wrong place. She tossed her hat up in front of her office.
Oh.
No.
Brian, I like nothing better than to engage in some serious snowball throwing.
An unsuspecting Minnesotan. So what do you figure you'll be doing this time next year?
I usually spend a lot of time hanging around with Prince. He's from this area.
This is Prince's studio, Paisley Park Productions, and he ought to be out here any minute now, because he told me he was going to come out here. We're buddies. Any day now. I swear. Prince's favorite color, purple. The color of the Vikings' uniforms, purple. A mere coincidence? You decide. Come on, Prince. How do you keep occupied during the winter months?
Well, gee, Brian, I spend a lot of time curling.
Curling?
Curling is a Scotty Georgian sport played in the winter, and it's similar to billiards, shuffleboard, and chess played on ice.
This is a stone. This is a broom. So what do you like to do during the winter?
I like to watch the Vikings play, Brian.
Metropolitan Stadium, it's gone. Now, the last time I was here, this is where the Vikings played football.
Looking for the Vikings, Mr. Burwell? Well, they've been indoors since 1982. My name is Dave, and I work for the Office of Tourism here in Minnesota. And I'd be glad to show you around if you like. I just happen to be walking by here on my lunch hour.
Wait a minute, you just happen to be walking by here?
Why don't we walk down to the Metrodome? It's only about 6 miles down there. Well, you know, Brian, we've got the Winter Carnival going on now. We've got ice sculpturing. It's a great parade. It's really a lot of fun here in Minnesota in the wintertime.
The best thing about the Twin Cities is the peaceful living and the music that we have here.
We have a lot of culture here. We have the Ordway Theater in St. Paul. We have the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. We have a lot of fine musicians.
The best thing about living in the Twin Cities, it's a small town with a lot of big town ideas.
The difference between Minneapolis and St. Paul is Minneapolis is so much larger, of course, and a little bit newer. The St. Paul side of the river over there is the original city of this area. Well, here it is, Brian, the site of the next Super Bowl.
6 miles? I can't believe you made me walk 6 miles.
Cold.
You know, this place is huge, and it's real warm. You know, when I was walking outside, I noticed the Twin Cities, they're real nice, but it's just so cold out there.
Well, Brian, we have an enclosed skyway system here. People in Minneapolis can travel in a 30-block area around the Twin Cities without ever having to go out in the cold. Well, come on, I'll show you some places we can get to from here.
Okay.
Plenty of places to eat wherever you go. There's easy access to indoor shopping virtually everywhere. And Minnesotans can visit all these places in the middle of winter in their shirt sleeves.
Well, look, Dave, thanks a lot for showing us around. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, Brian, and we're looking forward to welcoming everybody here next year.
In Minnesota, they've managed to build a city that's extremely livable, and they've filled it with some really nice people. Well, as long as I remember to stay indoors next year, I think it ought to be a pretty good Super Bowl.
And Brian, if you're going to Minnesota in January, bring your long johns. But I'm sure the players and coaches won't care where the Super Bowl is played as long as their team makes it. We'd like to thank both Lisa Burkhardt and Brian Burwell for their weekly cover stories throughout the season. They did a terrific job. And also, we want to thank Gary Myers for his weekly inside information. And Gary, you should take a bow because we asked you who was going to win the game. You were the only one who was right. You said the Giants 23-21. You only missed it by 1. It was 2019.
I was close enough, Lenny, and don't expect me to be humble. It's just a good thing for you guys. I don't pick every week.
Well, maybe Chris and Nick will not ask you your opinion next year, but hey, I will. Jeff Hostetler, we had him on the show. He did a terrific job to the point that the people here in New York are saying, hey, we've got a quarterback controversy as who's going to start, Sims or Hostetler.
Well, they probably do next season, but just as big a story is Jeff Hostetler's contract. You talk about great timing. His contract is up on Friday. Last year he made $425,000. The two quarterbacks he gets beat in the playoffs, Joe Montana and Jim Kelly, between them made $6 million last year. I spoke this week with Robert Bennett, who's Hostetler's agent, and he's telling me that he's looking to get Hostetler in the class of the top-paid quarterbacks in the league, which means a raise of about $1 million a year.
Well, Steve Young gets $1 million as Montana's backup. Jeff should get at least that. There's another person in that organization that his name has been thrown around as to whether he will or not coach next year, Bill Parcells. What's his status?
Well, he's given every indication he will be back next year. He has a year to go on his contract, but he hasn't said definitively he'll be back. All I think he's really trying to do is create a little leverage to get a contract extension. From what I understand, he will get a 3-year extension in the off-season for about $1.2 million a year, which brings him even with Joe Gibbs and Don Shula as the highest-paid coaches in the league.
Gary, there are 3 stories that I'm interested in. I want to throw them at you and get your input on them. First of all, the Cleveland Browns. Who's going to be their coach?
Giants defensive coordinator Bill Belichick right now would have to make the front runner. He's interviewing in Cleveland this week, and all he really needs to do to get the job is convince Art Modell he has a forceful enough personality to be a head coach.
Tampa Bay, who's going to be that coach?
Well, you keep hearing about Bill Walsh, but I don't think he's getting back into coaching. Belichick, again, is going to interview this week. Also, Buddy Ryan is going to interview, and Gary Stevens, the quarterback coach from Miami. If Hugh Culverhouse doesn't want to hire any of those guys, he'll turn back to Richard Williamson, who's the interim coach.
Let's talk about the other big story. The Rocket says he's coming out in the draft. The Patriots have the first choice. What will they do with him? Will they take him?
They've let it be known around the league this week that they're very willing to trade the Rocket in the first pick in the draft for a big package, sort of like the Cowboys got for Herschel Walker. A couple teams I know that are interested are Atlanta, which has the 3rd and the 13th pick in the draft, and Detroit, which could be offering Andre Ware to move up in the draft.
Well, the Rocket certainly is very, very exciting, and you've made this season very, very exciting. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to being with you again next year.
Okay, Lenny.
During each week of the season, the old cowboy, Kurt Gowdy, has narrated my favorite portion of the show, bringing us up to date on the former legends of the game. In this week's Where Are They Now?, we revisit some of the men who made such an impression on us during these features and left us with cherished memories.
Football, like many sports, creates its own memories. Memories from men who played a role in molding the game of football in their own special way. Where are they now?
We're not millionaires. We didn't make a lot of money, but money isn't everything. And I know a lot of millionaires that are unhappy, and we were never unhappy. We've always been happy. We've always been lucky.
playing and the glory and the making touchdowns and things like that were very important to a 25 to a 30-year-old man. But when you get 50, in the mid-50s, well, the type of person you are and the type of man you are and the type of life you've led means so much more than a little bit of glory that you might have had during those years.
I just have a very pleasant life. I wouldn't trade it, quite honestly. I could be doing more, I suppose, than I am doing, but I quite honestly feel I've paid my dues over the years, and it's time to sit back and really smell the flowers and enjoy life.
I've been reborn. My whole career now is flashing back at me, and people are recognizing me once more, like they did when I was playing, and it's just such a personal high.
If I had it to do all over again, ladies and gentlemen, I would only change one thing in my life. I'd kill more quarterbacks.
You can't ever stop trying to pursue what you're trying to do, and I never stop doing it. I do it every single day.
I want to be the kind of motivator that Don Shula was in turning these people around, because you got to change the attitude before you change anything.
To all you former players, we salute you and thank you for inviting us into your homes and lives. You've enriched us all.
George Allen left us much too soon, but the last year of his life was spent doing exactly what he wanted to do, and he loved doing, that is coaching and teaching young people.
Lenny, another great legend passed away this week. That is the great Red Grange. You know, number 77, the Wheaton Iceman, he not only saved football, but he made it a spectator sport, and he is going to be sadly missed.
You mentioned that he saved football. You know, when he got out of the University of Illinois and went into the professional ranks, they weren't drawing anybody. He put 100,000 people in the seats. You know, I hope that the young people were paying attention to what some of those ex-players were saying, because it is very meaningful. People like Otto Graham and Buck Buchanan.
Yeah, Lenny, I have to admit that's one of my favorite segments as well. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was watching some of the golf swings that those guys had. They had some pretty nice golf swings. What do you say, let's take one more look at some of those swings?
You better believe it. This is Otto Graham. Otto, of course, was an ex-quarterback, and you can imagine he's going to put it up there not only close, but in the hole. All right.
How about Billy Ray Smith? You don't want to bottle that swing, guys. I'll tell you that.
Ray Nitschke, the big guy, looking awfully smooth.
Now, this is a left-hander. Now, Ed Sprinkle has been playing a lot of golf, hasn't he?
Go get him, Ed.
I'll tell you, that's a sweet swing. Doak Walker.
Here's my idol right here, Johnny U. Put it in the hole, Johnny.
All right. That's a lot of golf being done after they retire, but I must admit, there's some awful swings that I saw. Have you ever seen anything as bad as that?
Yeah, I do, Lenny.
Yeah?
Yeah, remember we did an on-location show down in Miami, Florida at Doral Country Club?
No.
Yeah, I remember a guy by the name of, I think it's Dawson.
Boilermaker. First, you have to line it up like Jack Nicklaus.
Go ahead, Lenny. Good
How deep was that water, you
Good
think?
stance.
You think
Good stance. Keep your hair in place now. Don't. Whoop. Oh, it looks like a water shot. It's a yes. Yes, it's in the water. It's in the water. Oh, God.
Maybe we should do it. Where are they now on that golf ball? What do you think?
Yeah, no, we'll need scuba gear to do that, though.
Hey, wait a minute. I was at a disadvantage. First of all, I was tired. I had no golf shoes on, and I didn't have my magic glove to guide me through.
Yeah, golf lessons.
That was awful.
You know, you may not have a nice golf swing, but at least you've got a Super Bowl ring, and that's something that I don't have. But you know, the money and the fame of a Super Bowl title are easily spent and easily shared. One thing that remains forever is a Super Bowl championship ring. In this week's Pigskin Potpourri, we look at the making of these personal, valuable, and unique works of art. Over the last 25 years, 4 companies have made Super Bowl rings: Balfour, Tiffany's, Lennox, and Jostens, who manufactured 16 of the rings. The process begins once the Super Bowl ends. The NFL buys 180 rings, 90 for each team. The winning team chooses the design of the ring at a price of approximately $4,000 apiece, a cost that could rise based on Super Bowl appearances over a 10-year period. The losing team's ring is designed by the NFL and costs $2,000. After much detailing, grinding, and polishing, the diamonds, which come from Germany, are set in place. Finally, the rings are weighed, inspected, engraved, tested, packaged in a special walnut box, and shipped to the Super Bowl champions. From the design phase in Minnesota to the manufacturing in Illinois, this complicated process involves over 30 individuals and up to 4 months to complete.
Chris, after seeing the way those rings were made, you have to be dying to get one of those Super Bowl rings.
Well, Nick, you know, I used to be like that, but I've had a few things happen to me since I got finished playing, and I really don't have those emotional problems anymore, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, but Nick, there is one difference. When he gets through with this show, they're going to take those rings back. You and I will take ours with us.
Never.
Never again. Hey, this has been great this year, working with you gentlemen, and for Chris, the very first time. Next year, we won't see each other on the show until next year, and I'd be interested to see how you felt about this year and what you're going to be doing until next year.
Well, I had a ball, and I appreciate you guys putting up with me. We've had a lot of fun this year, but during the off season here, I get a chance to go home, spend a little time with my 10-month-old daughter, Katie, and finish up my law degree in my 5th year now, working on that.
That's congratulations there, Chris. Well, Lenny, I'm going to be raising money for the Miami project, my first love, and maybe I'll even get back and do a little law practicing, Chris, and so who knows, we'll refer back and forth.
Could use the help.
I'm going back to work tomorrow in Kansas City. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot something. Geez, generally at this segment, we always talk about the picks and everything else. And, Nick, I didn't mention the fact that you won not only for the season but the playoffs, and we decided this is a momentous occasion. We'd like to present you with this trophy, as we could take a fine close-up look at that, and we want to present
very
this to...
well deserved,
very well deserved.
Very well deserved there.
So
the first annual.
Does that mean if I beat you guys next year, I get the other half, or what?
I will think about that.
I think that half's more appropriate. You better stay there.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us this year. This is our last program of this year. We hope to see you again next year on HBO's Inside the NFL.